My dear brother and sisters, wealth begins in the heart long before it reaches the hands, because a heart anchored in trust shapes how provision is received, understood, and preserved. Many people chase money believing it will quiet their fears, yet the fear only grows when the heart is empty of reliance on Allah. When the heart is content, even little feels abundant, and when the heart is content, even little feels abundant, and when the heart is restless, even oceans feel dry. Allah places true richness in inner peace, not in possessions, so that a believer understands that provision is not merely what enters the wallet, but what settles calmly within the soul. A heart that recognizes Allah as the sole provider no longer panics at loss nor becomes arrogant at gain, because it knows that every rise and fall is guided by divine wisdom rather than blind chance. When the heart is purified, wealth becomes a tool instead of a test that breaks a person. Money in the hands of an untrained heart often becomes a source of pride, fear, and distraction. But money in a heart shaped by faith turns into a means of gratitude and service. That bad money in a heart shaped by faith turns into a means of gratitude and service. Allah does not forbid wealth. He teaches balance, reminding us that possessions are temporary, while character is lasting, and temporary, while character is lasting. A heart attached to Allah uses wealth without becoming enslaved by it, gives without fearing poverty, and saves without hoarding in anxiety. Such a heart understands that real loss is not the reduction of income, but the loss of humility, sincerity, and remembrance, because these are the foundations upon which all lasting blessings are built. The heart that is alive with faith recognizes that barakah cannot be counted by numbers alone. Two people may earn the same amount, yet one lives in constant stress while the other experiences peace, stability, and gratitude. This unseen difference lies in the state of the heart. Barakah enters when the heart is honest, grateful, and conscious of Allah in every transaction and intention. When the heart is clean, Allah places ease in expenses, satisfaction, in effort and protection, in outcomes. The outcomes of wealth then becomes something that supports faith rather than competes with it, allowing a believer to walk confidently through life, knowing that what Allah places in their hands is exactly what their heart needs at that moment. A heart attached to Allah does not collapse when wealth decreases, nor become careless when it increases. When it increases, it remains steady because it understands that provision shifts, but Allah remains constant. This understanding removes desperation and replaces it with patience, removes envy, and replaces it with gratitude, and removes fear of the future, and replaces it with hope. When the heart learns to depend on Allah rather than numbers, it gains freedom from constant comparison and worry. Such a heart measures success not by how much is accumulated, but by how much peace remains when circumstances change, because stability of faith is the greatest form of wealth a servant can carry. When the heart is corrected, the pursuit of wealth becomes balanced and purposeful. Effort is made with excellence, but outcomes are surrendered with calmness. The believer works, plans, and strives, yet sleeps peacefully, knowing that provision is written and protected by Allah. This inner security transforms the entire relationship with money, turning stress into trust and obsession into responsibility. A heart that believes firmly that Allah provides learns to seek halal means, accepted divine timing, and remain grateful in all conditions. In that state, even small earnings carry dignity, even delayed provision carries wisdom, and every blessing is recognized as a gift rather than a guarantee. Repentance unlocks blocked provision because sin weighs down the soul and quietly interrupts the flow of barakah in a person's life. Many people struggle endlessly, not realizing that what holds them back is not a lack of effort, but a heart burdened by distance from Allah. When a servant turns away from obedience, the heart hardens, and with that hardness comes restlessness, confusion, and strain in matters of provision. Allah is most merciful, yet He teaches us that actions have contexts, and neglecting His commands affects both the seen and unseen aspects of life. Repentance cleans the heart, softens it, and realigns it with divine mercy. When the heart bows sincerely before Allah, acknowledging weakness and wrongdoing, it becomes receptive again to guidance, ease, and the subtle openings through which provision flows into life. Sincere repentance is not a ritual of the tongue alone, but a transformation of intention, behavior, and direction. When a person truly regrets their mistakes, leaves the sin, and resolves to return to Allah, a powerful shift takes place within the soul. That shift brings humility, and humility attracts divine help. Allah loves those who turn back to Him repeatedly, even if they fall again, as long as their return is honest and hopeful. Through repentance, blocked paths begin to open, not always immediately, but steadily and with wisdom. The servant may notice clarity in decisions, peace in effort, and relief in decisions, peace in effort, and relief in matters that once felt impossibly heavy. These are signs that Allah has accepted the return and is gently restoring balance to the believer's life believer's life. Many people search for solutions outwardly, while the true remedy lies inwardly. Repentance repairs the relationship between the servant and the provider. And once that relationship is restored, provision finds its way with ease. The Quran reminds us that seeking forgiveness brings increased blessings and strength, because forgiveness cleanses what prevents goodness from descending. A heart that is forgiven becomes lighter, and a lighter heart walks through life with confidence rather than fear. Repentance also sharpens moral awareness, guiding a person away from unlawful earnings and toward halal means that carry barakah. When income is pure, even if small, it stretches further, satisfies deeper needs, and protects from harm that wealth alone cannot prevent, some more that wealth alone cannot prevent. Turning back to Allah through repentance also heals emotional and spiritual wounds that interfere with productivity and perseverance. Guilt, shame, and regret silently drain energy, motivation, and hope, making a person feel stuck even when opportunities exist. When repentance is made sincerely, Allah replaces that heaviness with reassurance and renewed strength. The believer begins to move forward with a clearer conscience and a stronger sense of purpose. This inner renewal reflects outwardly in effort, discipline, and consistency, all of which are essential for sustained provision. Repentance reconnects the servant to divine support, reminding them that they are not abandoned but guided, protected, and given repeated chances to rise again. When repentance becomes a habit rather than a reaction, it keeps the doors of provision open continuously. A believer who regularly seeks forgiveness remains aware of the dependence on Allah and avoids arrogance in success and despair in hardship. This constant return to Allah, who nurtures sincerity, patience, and gratitude, qualities that attract lasting blessings. Repentance teaches the heart that mistakes do not define the servant, but persistence in turning back defines their worth. In this state, provision is no longer pursued with desperation, but received with trust, humility, and peace. Because the heart knows that Allah opens what was closed when the servant sincerely walks back toward Him. Salah, dhikr, and charity multiply wealth because they align the servant directly, multiply wealth because they align the servant directly with the source of all provision. Salah anchors the day around obedience, reminding the heart 5 times that success is not self-made, but Allah-given. When prayer is guarded, discipline enters life, time becomes organized, and priorities become clear. A person who stands before Allah regularly is protected from reckless decisions and harmful shortcuts that drain barakah. Salah softens the heart, removes arrogance, and nurtures humility, and humility invites divine assistance. Even when income appears limited, the one who prays consistently finds that their needs are met in unexpected ways. Expenses are eased and burdens feel lighter, Prayer is not a pause from productivity. It is the fuel that sustains it with peace, clarity, and unseen support. Dhikr keeps the heart alive and unseen support. Dhikr keeps the heart alive and connected even outside the moments of formal prayer. When the tongue remembers Allah, the heart becomes alert to His presence in every step. Decision and effort. Constant remembrance builds gratitude, and gratitude attracts increase. Dhikr removes anxiety about provision because it trains the soul to rely on Allah rather than outcomes. A person who frequently says words of remembrance begins to notice calm replacing panic and hope replacing fear. His inner stability improves focus, patience, and consistency, qualities essential for sustaining effort and growth. Dhikr also cleanses the heart from envy and resentment, emotions that quietly destroy contentment and blessing. When remembrance fills the heart, Allah fills life with sufficiency, protection, and subtle openings that logic alone cannot explain. Charity multiplies wealth because it challenges the illusion of ownership and replaces it with trust. When a person gives sincerely, they declare with action that Allah is the true owner and provider. This act breaks the grip of fear that whispers poverty and loss. Charity purifies earnings, removes hidden harm, and invites mercy into one's life. Even small amounts given regularly carry immense weight when offered with sincerity. Those who give often notice that money stretches further, unexpected help appears, and relief arrives at critical moments. Charity also strengthens social bonds, builds goodwill, and creates a circle of support that returns in times of need. Allah replaces what is given, sometimes in wealth, sometimes in ease, sometimes in protection unseen, sometimes in protection unseen. Together, Salah Bikar and charity reshape a person's entire relationship with wealth. Instead of chasing money with desperation, the believer moves through life with trust and balance. Worship disciplines the soul, remembrance stabilizes the heart, and charity purifies intentions. These acts do not remove effort, they elevate it. The believer still works hard, but without panic or greed. They strive while remaining patient, ambitious, while remaining ethical, hopeful, while remaining grounded. This balance prevents burnout and regret, allowing growth that is sustainable and blessed. When these practices are consistent, wealth no longer becomes a source of fear or pride, but a responsibility carried with awareness and humility. A life built around worship attracts divine attention, and divine attention brings protection and increase. Allah opens the day with alignment. Dhikr sustains the heart throughout challenges, and charity seals wealth with blessing. These acts draw the servant closer to Allah, and closeness to Allah transforms every aspect of life. The believer begins to see provision not as a struggle against fate, but as a journey guided by mercy. Even delays carry wisdom, even tests carry benefit, and even small gains feel meaningful. In this state, wealth becomes a means of worship rather than a distraction, and the heart remains rich regardless of the numbers written beside the name. Trusting Allah fully transforms how a believer understands delay, because what appears postponed is often carefully timed with wisdom beyond human perception. Many hearts grow restless when answers do not arrive quickly, yet Allah reminds us that He sees what we cannot see and knows what we do not know. When a servant places sincere trust in Allah, they stop interpreting delay as rejection and begin seeing it as preparation. Tawakkul teaches the heart to remain steady even when outcomes are unclear, because certainty rests not in results but in reliance on the one who controls them. This trust calms the soul, allowing patience to replace panic and hope to replace fear. A believer who truly trusts Allah understands that what is written will reach them without being chased, and what is written will reach them without being chased, and what is not written will never benefit them, no matter how hard it is pursued. Delays refine character and strengthen faith in ways instant fulfillment never could. When something is withheld, the heart is invited to reflect, grow, and draw closer to Allah rather than drift into heedlessness. Waiting teaches humility, reminding the servant of their dependence, and dependence invites divine closeness. In these moments, Allah molds patience, sincerity, and resilience within the soul. A believer learns to pray with depth rather than desperation, to hope without conditions, and to hope without conditions, and to worship without bargaining. These unseen transformations are themselves a form of provision, though many overlook them while waiting for visible results. Allah uses delay to protect the servant from harm they may not recognize, redirect them toward better outcomes, or prepare them to receive blessings without losing gratitude or balance. Trusting Allah fully also frees the heart from constant comparison and anxiety about timing. When a believer sees others receiving what they desire, trust protects the heart from envy and despair. Allah distributes provision with justice and wisdom, not with randomness or neglect. Each soul is given according to its capacity, its journey, and its ultimate good. What arrives early for one may be a test, and what arrives early for man may be a test, and what arrives late for another may be mercy. Trust teaches the believer to focus on obedience rather than outcomes, effort rather than entitlement. This mindset creates peace even amid uncertainty, because the heart knows that Allah never delays out of forgetfulness, nor withholds out of cruelty, but plans every moment with perfect care. True tawakkul does not eliminate effort, but purifies intention behind it. A believer works diligently, plans wisely, and strives with excellence, yet releases attachment to control. When outcomes differ from expectations, trust prevents bitterness and collapse. The servant understands that effort is an act of worship and results are a gift from Allah. This balance prevents burnout, frustration, and despair during long periods of waiting. Frustration and despair during long periods of waiting. Trust replaces the need for constant reassurance with calm acceptance. Even when doors seem closed, the believer continues to knock through dua, patience, and obedience, confident that Allah opens doors at the exact moment they serve the greatest good. When trust becomes deeply rooted, delays lose their power to shake the heart. The believer moves through life with steady faith, knowing that every pause carries meaning and every silence carries mercy. Hope remains alive because trust assures the soul that Allah's promise never fails, even when its fulfillment is unseen. In this state, waiting becomes worship, patience becomes strength, and uncertainty becomes a path to deeper closeness. The heart rests not because everything has arrived, but because it knows with certainty that whatever arrives will be exactly what was meant to arrive at the moment. It was meant to arrive at the moment it was meant to come.